Today, you're going to find out from a man who has invested his entire life into building others and hospitality around them. See, John Elston doesn't just own things. He invests in people who happen to go into things. Welcome, John Elston.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Man, John, I want to know something before we get into your career path, before we find out about the logo that sits on the man's head. Tell me about your life, how you grew up.
Yeah.
What's the genesis of who you are?
Well, that's a lot to unpack there, but I appreciate the question. I grew up in what most people would have probably considered going to be a tough and difficult childhood in life. And it was 1,000,000% opposite of that. I have extremely young parents. My mom was 15 when I was born. My dad was 17. They got married, and you would think that having young parents like that didn't come from money. We lived in a 900 square foot house, the three of us, until 4 years later when my sister came. But as a child and a kid growing up, not only did I not know any different, I still reflect back today and think I had one of the best childhoods of anybody I ever met. And I don't hear that very often. But I had, the mom that went to school and baked cookies and worked in the PTA and got jobs in the student stores, and father who worked 3 jobs and never missed a Little League practice, never missed a football practice. And not only didn't miss it, he was my coach.
Wow.
From the age of about 9 until, I went off to high school. He was coaching me through American Legion baseball, and the lessons that I learned from him, unbeknownst to me at the time, kind of put me in the direction of entrepreneurship and going that way.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a very good
Do me
time.
a favor. Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about Mom and what she means to you.
Yeah. Well, my mother, man, still today, I'm so lucky to have her in my life, and she ultimately is my number one fan. And she supported me when she probably didn't even know really how to support herself, right? I mean, she went from a teenager in her parents' house to living with my dad, to raising with a family, for being married for 50 years, never being alone until 6 years ago, my father passed, and she found herself for the very first time alone. And I've probably learned more about my mother in these 6 years than I did the prior 40 or 50.
Watching Mom as her life transition there from, first of all, 50-year investment into oneness, reinvent herself. What did you learn to admire about Mom through that?
Wow. Traditions were important to her. Stick-to-itiveness, defending her family and her kids, how to be overshadowed with intention to shine the light on others that she loved, including my sister and I. She's, been through a lot and still beautiful, could have shined that light on herself so many times. And every time she had a chance, she turned the light on us and was there. Yeah.
And when it comes to Dad, man, they say you don't become a man until Dad says goodbye, right?
Yeah.
Because now the mantle comes to you. Tell me about Dad.
Yeah. Well, first, I've never been more proud to carry the same name. So like you're James. I'm John, and my father was John. And, I think there are times in my life when I was young that I didn't understand just how important that was. And I maybe, through grade school kind of wished I had a different name than the name of my father, not knowing. And, in this very moment, I wouldn't trade it for anything. As a matter of fact, I found out after my father passed away that you're supposed to drop the junior in your name. Once the senior passes away, you drop that as your official name. And I don't think I ever read it anywhere, but to know it to be factual, but I think that it is. And there is no way I'm ever going to do that. That's who I am. I'm his son.
You know, as a father, one of the greatest things you can do as you're becoming a man is to leave a man better than what you were.
Yeah.
And so he gave you his name so that that name would live on, knowing that you would elevate it.
Yeah.
How important is it for you to be more so that you can serve more because of what's been given to you?
Well, I think it's indirectly with less intention, and it's just happened. Like, I don't wake up every day and think about it, but I go through periods of time in my life, whether it's tough times or cycling down or cycling up, where I really do remember where I came from. And when I look for motivation and inspiration, and sometimes just asking the question of, how am I getting this opportunity? It's from those quiet times with him. Just the ride in the car, listening, talking. He always had a way of driving home the point of common sense. It didn't matter. He only had to tell me 2 letters. He just narrowed it down to 2 letters. And it didn't matter if I was going off to a game, or I was going off to a new job, or going on a date, or whatever I was doing, going out with my buddies. He just said, you're going to have a great time tonight. You just got to use a little CS.
Common sense.
Yeah. And so much gets done with just common sense, right?
Yeah.
So
it's to talk about your dad, the idea of looking to the sideline and playing for him.
Yeah.
How important was it to give it your all because of who it is, and to even have that support? And I ask that because I want you to also talk to, for every young man that will watch this, that even to understand the moment and how important and how valuable those moments are now that those are over.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I'm talking to the young men and women watching this who still have the opportunity to be participating in those events with their family or their upcoming, and maybe you're not the child, you're the father, and you're getting an opportunity to participate. Relish in them, remember them, even when you think they're not getting through to your kids, or you think that it's not that important that your parents are there. I promise you won't regret it. It is one of my biggest treasures that I still have today.
Man.
Yeah.
When it comes to transitioning, our parents go, and one of the most challenging things for me was the idea of, like, what do I do now, right? Where do I go for that end voice? But when I close my eyes, I still see her.
Yeah.
I still hear.
Yeah.
What was Dad's last words to you, or something significant he said to you that still plays in your head today?
It's easy. Just told me he loved me. Yeah. He wasn't sick. Last time I saw my dad, he was not able to speak. He was unconscious and never regained consciousness before he passed away. But it was just the standard hug and goodbye and I love you. And
Dad.
On he went.
Yeah.
Got in the car and drove away.
How important is it for fathers to speak those words over their children?
Oh, I don't think you can do it enough. I don't think I do it enough. I don't. I think that, the best way to get there is to let it resonate. If you're fortunate enough to come from an upbringing like I did, to remember that. If you came from an upbringing where that didn't exist, to just reflect back on how much you wish it would have happened and not to make the same mistake. And if it did happen to you, shame on you if you're not doing it enough. But
well,
yeah, it's super important.
I think often people will ask if you could have dinner with anyone in history.
Yeah.
And I could bring them back for a moment. Who would I bring? And I always say, I would bring Grandma back right now. You, if I could choose for you, I would have your dad see you today.
Yeah.
And we'd have a conversation. What would you say to Dad today?
Wow. I thought about this yesterday at the airport, a couple layovers, and was just reflecting back. For whatever reason, I'm on one of those walking sidewalks, right? Mm-hmm. And I decided not to walk, and I just kind of let it resonate about my father. And I'm not even sure why he came into my mind so strong. But one of the things I wanted to ask him was why at 40, I tried to do the math, 45 years old, he worked at General Dynamics, he worked at Carnation, he worked for my grandfather's business, other multiple jobs growing up, but he was always working for somebody else. And I wanted, if he was here today, I wanted to ask him, why at 45 did you decide to start over and to start from scratch and to start your own business, which he then did for 37 more years. Wow. Ran his own business as an entrepreneur. And, I wanted to say, because I think it's some of the things come into my mind of what I'm dealing with and where I'm going and what's next for me. And I wish I could have that conversation.
I think I have an idea of why.
Yeah.
Because I similarly waited until I was 45, really, and 48, turning 49 before I did. It's because I had the idea of I would give them stability. The kids, I could count on. I knew what I had to grind if I did this. And then there was this idea that I'd be able to turn the switch and eventually I'd be able to go after my own things after I got them to a level, right?
Yeah.
And so here's what I learned, though. The time that I invested building someone else's dreams limited mine. The hours that I put in, because you work in environments where they will give you the same rate of pay as a person who doesn't work. You could work twice as hard, twice as fast. You could be the equivalent of 7 employees, but you won't get that pay.
Yeah.
But your pride won't allow you not to work that hard and give all you. But I always knew that I had to give my all no matter what. But then when I figured out I wasn't giving me my all.
Yeah.
In the moment I did that, doors opened up. I want to address 2 things, and if you could talk on these things to everyone. How did you process grief, and how do you help others do that? Can you walk them through? Your dad's non-responsive, but you get to speak those final words there.
Yeah.
How did you handle managing life beyond that grief?
Yeah, one, getting to be there was super important to both provide support to my family, besides my father, that were there and trying to get there from other parts of the country. I felt responsible. I felt like you had just mentioned that this was my turn to make sure that I stepped up for others. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't an immediate amount of grieving. It was more immediate grieving by support.
Would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Say that in a process for people, almost as if you were speaking to your son, giving him instruction on how to, because there are men and women who need to know how you process that. Your wisdom is worth.
Well, I appreciate that. I didn't really think about it at the time or take it out of a book, but I felt an elevation of responsibility. I felt that I would have time to process, but immediately it was to be there and to be present. And I would put that as, first and foremost, get there, be there, support your family member that is ill or not doing well as much as you can. Because I do believe, even though my father was unconscious, I believe that he knew we were there.
Absolutely.
I truly believe he knew we were there. And then I took on the role of I guess, commissioner or, responsibility for making sure I was making arrangements for others to get there and sharing as much as I could about what the last, couple hours, had meant, because many people couldn't get there in time. People that my father loved, including some of my kids. And so it was there, and then it immediately moved into the post situation where I wanted to make sure that his legacy was continued to be talked about and delivered all the way through the services. So I stepped up and did that, and I'm still kind of numb, and it was not planned. It just happened, and then I still have people 5-6 years later telling me that stuck with them. So I must have done something right for him.
If you're watching, or perhaps you're listening to this and you're going through, how do I process grief? How do I step into the shoes of a man or a woman who has meant so much? They were monumental, they're giants to you. The way you step into them is to remember that they stepped into your life to leave an imprint and an impact. And if you ever wondered, like, how do I get the last words in? How do I tell them? How do I express if they can't respond? Well, the thing is, you've never spoken into anyone's ears. You'll always speak into their heart. You speak spirit to spirit. Yeah. And so not only did Dad hear you, he got to smile as he began the transition, knowing I can leave in peace.
Yes.
Because my son picked up the mantle.
Yeah.
I am mindful that I don't represent my first name. I represent the last. In the corridor of time, you and I have been blessed to have people that invested in us. And the only way to get a withdrawal is for what we pour into our kids.
Yeah.
How did you take those lessons from Mom and Dad and pour them into yours?
Well, I think you nailed it, and it's an analogy that I love to use all the time, is the deposits versus the withdrawals. And sometimes, depending on who I'm speaking to or how I'm trying to convey the point, whether I'm leading or mentoring a new manager or talking to my son or any number of people, that analogy seems to sink in, because if you take too many withdrawals, you find yourself bankrupt. Bankrupt of emotions, bankrupt of being able to grieve. And people understand the more deposits you make, right, and grateful and being humble and supportive, you can afford and have to take some withdrawals once in a while.
Yeah.
And I think that's a super key. I always try to start, and if I'm in a situation to end a relationship, that I've made many, many more deposits than I have withdrawals.
Well, I was thinking of this. We have an obligation to be more, because whom much is given, much is required. John, you've been given a great amount of skill, talent, abilities. You've been given an acumen that rare few men have had. Less than 1% of men make over $100,000. You know that?
Well, no.
And to know that you are in that top percentile, and to be in it, to not have an ego. How is it that you first turned your talents into revenue, but then how did you also make sure you didn't go down the avenue of arrogancy?
Yeah, I think I fall on this coaching analogy a lot, and I think both are winners, whether you're a player's coach or you're an owner's coach. I have always erred on the side of being a player's coach, and in that time, I have upset the apple carts of a lot of owners. But I always come out, seems to be on top when it comes to leadership by being that player's coach. I think really, when I look back at what continued to give me opportunities, such a small piece of it was me. And I know that sounds like humble pie or a deflection, but really what it was my ability to put incredible people together on the same team and to be supportive. And I think you could go through decades of people that have worked with me, and they would endorse that, and they would remember that it was nice to have a solid team around me. And, you know, I did that, quite honestly. I don't want to digress, but a lot of that came from learning disabilities and conditions and things that I grew up with that helped me hone those skills of soft skills and leadership and EQ, because I wasn't always on the IQ side of things. I grew up with ADHD that wasn't even diagnosed till I was in my 40s, dyslexia, and I figured out how to work around it. And the skills that grew and that it became so strong in me and my inner person were all from defending those shortcomings.
Come on.
Yeah.
Man, I've got to take a moment with that, if you would. I want you to talk to people, if you will, about how to work around any deficiency you might feel you have, the importance of it, and the fact that you can still thrive even when you feel like I can't do it the way everyone else does. Would you take a moment and just talk about that?
Can I tell a short story?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember one of the deficiencies or conditions that I had was I was a very poor reader. And a lot of that came from, you know, the dyslexia of reading right to left, and not being able to pronounce words from a linguistical standpoint. I'm still very weak. And in the 5th grade, Mr. McAllister's class at elementary school, there was a part of the day where he would go around the room and we would read aloud. And I learned that was something I wasn't good at, that I couldn't do, and I didn't understand why, but everybody could do it very well. I found that my escape from that, believe it or not, was figuring out how to get out of the situation. And the way I got out of the situation was I knew just enough how to misbehave and to act up that got me excused, and I had to go sit outside the door. And this went on for the whole year. 2 or 3 times a week, I would figure out a way to have Mr. McAllister have me go sit outside so I didn't have to read. And it wasn't until, 15, 20 years later that I realized that, my art for negotiating, my art for reasoning, my art for started really being tuned up in the 4th and 5th grade when I was trying to overcome not being able to read.
There you go.
So, I don't necessarily endorse that, but it is we find ourselves doing things to work around our weaknesses. And mine was, and in the industry that I have been in for now more than 4 decades, gave me the opportunity to always build teams and to surround myself with people that were better. And I know that's a cliche.
No, it's not. I think you're onto something powerful there. In fact, I want to kind of park our car there for a moment, and you and I will speak on this. Yeah. There comes a time where you'll have to find a workaround. You have to work around any insignificance that you might feel, any deficiencies you might have been told you had. You have to find a workaround, and the way that you might have to work around it is lean on the talents of others to build a team, and remember that there's still a me within team, but you've got to tie into others. You have to eat all that you can that is around you from the buffet of abilities that are around you so that you can be full enough so that you can survive and thrive later. It doesn't mean that you've lost something because you can't do something. What it means is that someone else may be the puzzle piece to you putting it all together. If you would, again, speak on that same thing about working around and building a team.
Yeah. I mean, the opportunity that I was able to be presented early in my career really came around from one major discovery. And it was several years into being in the hospitality business when I realized that my purpose was not what I was doing. That was not my purpose, because I thought my purpose as I was growing up through the business was providing hot food hot, cold food cold, heads in beds, and making sure that the temperature in the lobby was great, that the scents that we were pumping in were in line with the brand, making sure that the music was right at the right tone and the pitch. Everything I just mentioned is not hospitality. It's service. It's transactional, right? Everything I just mentioned is transactional. And I thought that was my purpose. And what I learned young that got me the opportunity was that my purpose was not what I was doing. My purpose was the feeling I left with others while I was doing what I was doing. Does that make sense?
No, that's a
so making people feel right was my purpose. The way they felt when they left. And I would have people come to me and say, I came here for a conference. I came here to get away with my family. I came here to relax. What I got was so much more.
Wow.
They didn't remember the scent in the lobby. They didn't remember the clean rooms. Yes, it was happening and it was there, but they remembered the way that we, the team, made them feel. It was something that, got me into running my first hotel way before I had any business running a $20 million operation at 22 years old.
Those are the things that
like
the audacity to be like, man, I can do it. Most people will run away from leadership opportunities because they will believe I'm too young for that. Or one day when I'm 40, I can do that.
Right. So here's something that happened because, we talked about how someone can, bring you down to like you can do it. But if there's anybody in authority or anybody that has presence in your mind of being important can bring you down. I got this opportunity. I was attending a mid-management meeting in Portland, Oregon. And through the very unfortunate situation of a manager running a hotel died suddenly while running the hotel. The company came to me while I was at this mid-managers meeting and said, we're so grateful to be promoting you to general manager of your hotel, but you need to leave now. Your boss is going to drive you over. It's about a 4-hour drive, and you're going to be the general manager of the hotel. I lived 800 miles away. I was just there for a meeting, and I was never going home, which I found out later. But the crazy thing is during this drive-in process, my boss said, somehow my age got brought up, and he said, so how old are you? I said, I'm 22. He said, no, how old are you now? Not when you started in the business. I said, George, I'm 22. He said, oh my gosh. Okay, this isn't going to work out very well. And immediately my confidence started to subside. It went the next step further. When I got to the hotel, we went into the human resources office. It was closed for the day. Took my personnel file that had just arrived and changed the date of how old I was.
Wow.
So that no one in the hotel would know.
So
how do you set up a general manager and you know what we changed it to? The ripe old age of 26. So I don't know what that means now, but I look back at it and it was like here, confidence, they trust me. I'm going to get to run this hotel to here. They don't trust me because of my age.
Wow.
But then it was just nonstop for the next 40 years.
How did you perform? Even though on paper it changed the age, nothing changed inside of you.
Yeah.
How did you perform with that task?
Straight ahead. I did things that I look back at now that I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but I did it because I needed to learn. One example was this is a hotel with a formal dining room, a 3-meal-a-day restaurant, 2 bars, 15,000 square feet of meeting space, which all of that comes with a large executive team, including a chef and a maitre d' and a sommelier and all of the other accoutrements of management. And what I realized was that I am best when I'm in front of people. And I am going to go out and I'm going to be in the dining room and I'm going to work the room. I didn't know how to open a bottle of wine. I'd never ordered a bottle of wine.
Oh, wow.
I was 22 years old.
Right.
So when everything closed up, I had the keys to the purchasing office. I went and got 2 cases of wine and I took them back to my room and I practiced opening every single bottle of wine.
Wow.
And learning how to do that. And this was before YouTube. This was before
Google. Yes.
But I just continued to do that and those types of things. And then things that I did know well, because I had been a bellman, I had been a front office manager, I'd been a coffee shop manager. I took those skills and took them to another level and remembered people telling me it's the way that I'm making them feel and not necessarily what we're doing.
Wow.
So I started teaching those things.
So this is what's great about it, is the innovation that comes out when you've been doubted. There's somebody going to be listening who is in the same situation, well, because of their youth or because of their size, because of their, it could be their age, it could be their gender or race that they're being doubted. Would you speak to them about how not to allow that to limit them?
Yeah, I mean, you will inevitably be told what to do. I promise you that. And you need to decide at that time if there are other options. I'm not talking about being, disrespectful or insubordinate. And you've got to think about doing things differently for yourself that accomplishes the same work. And I think some of the best things that you can provide a business that you maybe have not mastered is seeing the forest through the trees, looking at things differently, coming up with the way you would like to be treated, and testing. Try it out. It's so many things. It's just like when you're building something with AI, or you're building an app, or you're building a website. It's very hard to break things. And when you're dealing with the public, if you are, it's very hard to break an experience. You can enhance it 9 out of 10 times. And then when you do, you just re-engineer that and you can teach that. James, what I love is people will, for many, many years of my career, I was told that hospitality is not trainable. You can hire for hospitality, but you can't train it. There is nothing further from the truth.
Wow.
You can't expect every employee to be creative and innovative to create new things. But when you see something that's working, there's no reason to say, well, that's why that person's just the employee of the month. That's great. Acknowledge, recognize, but then take that whatever was making that person the best, share that, train it. And pretty soon people are trained to be hospitable. They're trained to have their head up here instead of down here, right? To walk around to the front, to hand the keys to the guest, to do just those simple, small things. That's hospitality.
There was a show called Cheers.
Yeah.
And it was like, you want to go where everybody knows your name.
Right.
The hospitality you're talking about is being made personal instead of transactional.
Yeah.
There's nothing more frustrating for me that if I'm talking to you, or if I'm even standing in line and there's 4 or 5 people in line, and you finish taking care of one person, and you don't acknowledge me, and I'm looking around wondering if there's anybody else coming, and that person will shuffle paperwork, do all those things, and then once they're settled, go next, as if I wasn't, rather than I'll be right with you.
So, head of cattle, you're just standing in line waiting to be stamped.
That's it.
I mean, there's all kinds of terms for ghosting, but oftentimes I think I'm the most invisible person in a business. They just don't see me, right? And it is because it is a one-on-one service opportunity that is just so easy to overcome with just that acknowledgement, a wink of the eye, or just one moment, holding the phone to the side and saying, I'll be right with you, right? Something like that. It's like, how much more time do you give a waiter when you sit at a table and you're addressed immediately with a glass of water or a simple hello? Or a napkin placed in your lap? You can wait 4 or 5 minutes for that next level of service. But if you are shown your table and you sit down and you see nobody, or you're invisible, it doesn't matter how good the food is when it comes.
Let me ask you something. Have you dealt with this? as an African American, oftentimes I find it's my responsibility to tip better or to do things because there's been this ideal concept that we don't.
Yeah.
And how do you train or help people address, because that's a real cultural issue that comes up where people have, and sometimes it can be in our own head because of a past experience. But it's where people end up noticing things like, you serve them first, or then me, or then whatever it is. Yeah. But how have you ever
from a personal standpoint or from a business standpoint?
From a business standpoint.
Well, from a business standpoint, one of the first things I like to address when I'm training for service, I definitely think you can't have service without hospitality. They definitely have to be together. And there's important to train on service, and that is the transactional piece, right? That can lead to something very hospitable, right? But hospitality is definitely where the magic happens. And what I have found, especially with a younger generation that isn't making a ton of money and that maybe doesn't have the best interest immediately of the customer in mind, I have to go to the part that's most important to them. And sometimes, quite honestly, that's making tips. That's being recognized in a survey. And so I start off with what's in it for them. Right. I know that seems strange.
No.
Because it should be what's in it for the customer, and the customer's always the customer, and the customer's always right. All of those cliches. But where I have found the real breakthroughs come with, what is your goal? And 9 out of 10 times, maybe 10 out of 10, new employees never say, it's to make happy customers. It's to set memories. It's to build an experience. That is a superstar. That is a leader that I will immediately pull out of line. I will sign them up to something really important. But it usually goes to, I need the hours. I want the weekends off. I want to be able to make tips. And that's okay. Then let me tell you, never show up for this tipped position without your pocket full of $1 bills. Because the first time you do something really good, the man or the woman's going to have a $20 bill. And are they going to depart with that $20 bill if you don't have money in your pocket? And you're doing them a service? Because one of the worst things in the world is to be that person with the 20. Someone's done something nice for you and they don't have change. You have to fight or fly. He's either getting the 20 or he's getting nothing.
That's right.
Because he hasn't told me, excuse me, sir, just a moment, I'll go get change. Yes. I know I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here.
No, but
I've got to start with what's in it for the employee.
Yeah.
Once I get it, what's in it for the employee, and I show them, and I usually, I have challenged many of my hotels to say, I'll take your shift, okay? And I will split the tips with you. We just did this in Laguna Beach a few months ago. But I'm going to show you how to provide hospitality and to maximize your income. And it was just simple little things that didn't cost the company any money, in a simple task process of valet parking cars. So I always start to try to tell the employee what's in it for them.
But you can change so many perceptions, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the meal that I often remember. It's usually the interactions. It's how they communicate, how polished they were, or if they can make an experience better. You bring a big-time client in for dinner, and it's how they interact and treat you in that setting, you know?
Yeah.
Those things can make everything.
I feel so compelled right now to tell just one more short story.
Let's do it.
In 2017, 11 Madison Park was voted the #1 restaurant in the world. Kind of doing a Quentin Tarantino bit here where I'm starting at the end. But they were #1 in the world. And for, I think, almost 9 or 10 years before that, they were a struggling brasserie in New York. And a young man at the age of, I think, 26 at the time, named Will Gudera, really brought the foundation to life about the difference between hospitality and service. And one of Will's points that he got through after years and years of refining and experimenting and figuring out how to bring front of the house service and hospitality together, decided that he really needed to interrogate the guest journey. And how many times do you have an opportunity from the time that guest looks you up on the website to make the reservation, to come in and go through the experience. How many touch points do you have? I'm going to cut right to, he sat down with his team, and the team said, well, we have 20 touch points. And he said, no, that's not good enough. Let's keep going. 20, 40, 60, 80. One dining experience, they came up with 120 touch points.
Wow.
For a table. He then immediately said, okay, we have low-hanging fruit, we have positive, we have negatives. What's the biggest negative when you go into a formal restaurant? Formal dining, there are a lot of them, and they're not cheap. You can spend a pretty penny, especially in New York. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the number one worst experience, the lowest of lows?
Well, it has to be the greeting.
Nope, just the opposite. It's when they bring you the check.
Wow.
Right? So you've just had this great meal. Everything is great, right? Mm-hmm. And then they bring you this multi-$1,000 bill. Kind of sucks the air out of the room, right, no matter what, but you're there. His team identified that is the lowest moment. So how do you overcome that? Will and his team did something so incredible that is just so simple, was at the end of the meal, you can't win if you're just dropping the check. Mm. People feel either that they're being rushed or that, the experience has ended, but everyone has to leave a restaurant sometime or another. That's right. Will and his team decided that they would address every table with a fine bottle of cognac with the check. And he would put, if there were 4 people at the table, he'd put 4 glasses out, and he'd put just a little splash in every glass, and he'd set the bottle down, and he'd say, this is on us.
Wow.
Stay as long as you want. There's no rush. Your check is here. The cognac is on us.
Took all the stress out of it.
Enjoy as much as you'd like.
Wow.
James, not very seldom, hardly ever at all, did anyone ever drink more than the splash that Will and his team poured.
Because of the experience that was created. Yeah.
And 99 out of 100 that left still tell that story. Instead of saying, we went to this struggling brasserie in New York and spent $3,000.
Yeah,
They say, they put a bottle of cognac on our table, and I don't even drink. I had a little sip of that cognac. I could have had the whole bottle if I wanted.
That's right.
It was on them.
Yeah.
They forgot that the check is here and that they're going to pay, and the experience and what they did. He took the worst part.
And made it a positive experience.
And made it an overwhelming, audacious experience that people talk about.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind, for everyone that has had a traumatic moment in their life, I just want to have you speak about overcoming that. Because you talked about how a business overcame it. But if you would speak to them about.
Well, I think this is something probably near and dear to you. I have devoured most of your content and appreciation for what you have done and how many people you have helped. And there's nothing more confirming or resonating when I watch someone at your level and others like you present something to me that I have done. I did it. And now it's confirmation that was a transition. I didn't know why I was doing it, but I know the results that I got from it. And I'll share it with you right now. It's when I went through something extremely difficult. I had to disappear. I had to go away. I had to become somebody else. And that was first for me. I needed to just take care of myself first. I needed to get away from the speculation. I needed to get away from the negative talk, and I needed to go prove some things to myself. And I disappeared for a year, 1 full year. And I did it with nobody that I knew, no one that I had ever met. I met people along the way. And I didn't really know why I was doing it. I just felt called to go do it. And I had the opportunity. The time was right in my business. The time was right in my life. And it repositioned me. I came back a different person. And I didn't just go down the street. I lived on 5 continents in 18 countries for 2 years and came back different with intention.
Man, listen, there's something he said that I wanted you to drive home with. Sometimes you have to withdraw in order to come back better. You have to disappear. You have to allow them to see the smoke of the aftermath of you leaving. You have to go ahead and represent yourself to them by representing a new version of you to them. And the only way to find that is to find a mirror that only you can see. If it's disappearing for a while so that you can come back better, stronger, that's healing. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is to try to heal in public because judgment of them or interference by others will get in the way. But if you can ever pull away, if you can ever get away, you can come back with a way. Everyone that I've known that has become great had to go through something great. Mm-hmm. You're not successful because of genetics. You're not successful because of you were lucky. You're not successful just because you have an immense amount of talents that God gave you. You have this spirit about you like that has that phoenix thing in it. If I put you anywhere on God's earth, you will triple your worth. If we drop you off in the middle of a desert, you will find the water. But you won't just find it for you. You'll come back with a cup for others because you've been a giver. And it's because of the giving, that's why you've been able to make a living. Life has not been easy for you, but you found a way to make it easier for others. For every sacrifice that you have made, for every time that you've turned the other cheek, I want to say thank you. For all those that don't know, there is nothing heavier than the crown that you see leaders wear. Everyone always wants that spot, but they don't know what it is in that spot. So thank you for carrying it with grace and dignity. Let me say this, guys, about John Elston. I didn't go over his resume to tell you how great he is because you're going to find that out. When you hear his keynote speeches, when he comes and speaks, when he speaks about hospitality, when he speaks about touching lives, he will touch your life. He will elevate your life. In just a short time with him, he took 15 minutes and changed everything that we've done in our business. And he gave that away. When I look back over it, how much I've invested in personal development, and I encourage you to always invest in your person, but you got to find the right person. And if there's any person, it's John Elston.